Good afternoon. I'm here with my good friend Rory McCourt from Victoria University of Wellington. Rory just returned recently from a 2-week study tour in the U.S. under the State Department's International Visitor Leadership Program. Rory, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to see you. So, was this your first visit to the U.S. or had you been there before?
No, first time.
So where did you get to go?
We headed to Cleveland to meet real Americans. We also spent.
Well, now there are real Americans in Washington.
Well, apparently we headed out to the Midwest, and we also spent some time in New York as well. So the program looked at youth engagement in civil society. It looked at youth entrepreneurship, and it looked at youth as leaders. And it's the first time that the State Department run a program specifically aimed at young people. So it was exciting guinea pigs, I think, for us.
Give me a sense of how many others there were and where they came from.
Sure. So there was 11 others. There was 12 of us in total, and we came from all across the world from the different youth councils that the State Department runs through their embassies. There were people there from Swaziland, from Cambodia, from South Sudan, the youngest country in the world. So a really nice, good mix. New Zealand, Ireland, and Israel were kind of the developed countries that were involved as well.
Now, the topic, as I understood it, was empowering youth involvement in public discourse. Is that accurate?
Yep.
What kinds of things were covered in the conversations?
So we looked at a whole bunch of civil society groups when we were there, and we met with them and looked at the kind of programs that they ran and how they related to young people. So there were groups like Rock the Vote in terms of getting young people involved in democracy and civil participation. There were groups like Hands on Ohio, which looked at youth volunteering and how to get young people involved and making sure there wasn't waste from hospitals and other health facilities. So there was a very large range, and some of them were universities, some of them were more business focused, but all of them had the focus on how they engage with young people and how you can make it work.
Were there particular locations that you visited that left an impact on you or impressed you?
Yeah, we went out to Brooklyn when we were in New York and had a look at the youth court there, and it's a fantastic program that really empowers young people to not judge each other, but to look at the root causes of problems before they arise. So they get to have referrals from the school system there, and so we actually went and visited a live session of the youth court.
Oh. It's an interesting concept, youth courts. How was it run? How was the proceeding run? Were they youth of a certain age actually doing the hearing and the judging?
Yep, so they were all young people from Greenpoint between 13 and I think the oldest was 18, and so they every week have a few sessions with young people coming through, and they swap roles. So one will be the judge, one will be the community representative, one will be the representative of the young person involved. And so they'll swap around and wear many different hats and experience the different aspects to the incident that arose.
Now, in Washington, what kinds of folks came to talk to you? I would assume being in Washington, you got to see a few officials.
We did, yep. We certainly met with some State Department officials. It was great to look at their pivot to Asia and talk with some senior officials there about how they're going to be engaging with countries like New Zealand and our neighbours in the coming century. That was really great to see.
What kinds of things were you able to experience that you thought were particularly American in your view while you were there?
Sure. Well, in Cleveland, we had a chance to head to a community fair and have there all sorts of arts and crafts community groups, school children coming through and doing parades and that kind of stuff. And that was right next to the Cleveland Museum of Art, which is really fantastic. I saw Kinky Boots. Which,
you beat me. I wasn't able to I wasn't able to get tickets when I was last in New York.
Yeah, no.
Did you enjoy it?
We were lucky. Yeah, no, it was fantastic. I think it won some Tonys for certainly the dancing, which isn't easy to do in high heels, I imagine. We headed to the Interfaith Centre, and kind of that was a chance for me to have a real insight into the amazing diversity that so many New Yorkers are proud of, and that makes the city, I think, quite unique, and that it is always changing, and no one lays claim to New York. You know, everyone is a traveller there, and it is eternally changing. And I think that's kind of a vision for New Zealand I would really like to see in the future. That all welcoming, all encompassing, and able to take all of the ideas in the world in such a small place.
Rory, did you have any preconception about the U.S. that was either confirmed or dispelled?
Hearing across the board from such different groups, from city officials who were in government to the layperson in the street, there was a shared sense that that government wasn't the best tool for fixing society's ills, and it wasn't desirable to use those tools, even if you really needed to.
Well, in some ways, that's at the bedrock of the way Americans view themselves and their place in the world. Rory, my understanding of the program was that there was going to be a heavy component based on what I guess we could call student activism, which is encouraging students to take more responsibility for their environment and to jump into the debate, even if they're not invited into the debate.
I went there looking for a lot of answers for some of the problems that we have in our student movement in New Zealand. I think a lot of people would agree that our movement's in a bit of a malaise, and we're in need to, I think, have some fresh approaches. And what I saw in the States was a breadth of ideas that really inspired me in terms of working with other groups in civil society. I think student associations can pigeonhole ourselves a lot of the time and not get alongside other community groups. But we visited a group in Washington. This organisation worked with labour unions, minority groups, and with student associations, working on kind of the Obama majority of progressive groups. And so they got together and they trained each other on how to deal with the different groups. So you had, kind of old men from the labour unions coming and seeing exactly what it felt like to be a woman in a minority. Or you had those women from the minority go and teach students exactly how to organise refugee background students or migrant students. And so there was so much sharing of information and tactics and training that boosted everyone. And I think what we can learn from that is that there is strength in dialogue and there is strength in partnerships and coalitions. And we don't need to stay siloed. We should be talking to each other.
Is that an idea you're planning to pursue?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a chance with the general election coming up to work on some of the kind of practical campaigns. But I don't mean necessarily getting overtly political immediately, but we need to reach some understandings about the shared challenges we face.
Is there a particular dominant impression you bring back to New Zealand about the United States?
This is a country which is changing all of the time, and government is just one example that there is no one person, there is no one body, there is no one organisation or party who has a monopoly on ideas in the future. It is eternally changing, and that's great. That's fantastic, and it's exciting. But it's also very hard to, I think, get your head around, and for an American, I think, to have faith that all of the problems that we have collectively will be addressed, because everyone is in authority, but no one is responsible.
You had exposure, Rory, in Washington to the federal government. Now, having gone to New York and Cleveland, did you have an opportunity to interact with any of our other layers, our states, our counties, our cities?
Absolutely. We spent quite a bit of time looking at local government in Cuyahoga County and the Cleveland City Council. That was really interesting for me. I'm a bit of a local government buff, and it was interesting to see just how much has devolved to those authorities. I think it was frustrating, I think, for the city officials, but also the citizens, in knowing exactly who was responsible some of the time. So it varies from state to state and county to county about which services lie where, and you haven't really got clear expectations as a visitor about who does what. We had a Russian driver in Cleveland, and he was great. He was fantastic. I think talking to him and seeing his kind of vision of America was really interesting, because we did talk to a lot of kind of naturalized US citizens, but hearing from an immigrant about coming from the East and coming to America and what it was kind of like for him, especially in the Rust Belt, was really interesting. But to him, the potential to achieve something and to have that potential was worth all of the insecurity in the world. It was pretty cool.
What kind of things have you shared with your fellow alumni about your own work and your own projects?
So coming back, I've shared with them some of the challenges we've faced in kind of some more detail, and I'm getting their views on what it would be like in their country and how you can build those big civil society coalitions that overcome some of the challenges that we're facing in New Zealand in youth engagement.
Rory, it sounds like this was a marvelous experience. In any way, has it changed your thinking about your next steps forward?
I think it's certainly changed the way that I view government and civil society and the potentials for, I guess, any group of citizens to get together and drive change. I think in New Zealand, a lot of the time we do look towards central government because it is a really effective tool for creating change, but I don't know, something I saw in the States around civil society groups who just got on with it, who just got together and did something and bugger the world, we're going to do it. That was really inspiring to me. So I think it's a place where anything is possible, but especially in terms of organising collectively. And I think here, hopefully we can apply a bit of that and just move civil society forward, even when government is not responsive. We don't need to wait for the state.
Rory, thank you for coming in. I appreciate you taking time on a Friday afternoon. It's great talking to you, and I'm glad you had such a good trip.